And so I use it as a metaphor to explain colonial society and the inequalities of colonial society.
Is there any contra-reception to your book or any critics that you heard that you know?
So far, the book has been much better received in the Netherlands than I thought was going to happen. If I read the interviews I gave before publication, I said, maybe some people are going to be very, very angry. But most people have been very, very grateful. Even last night, I want to thank you because we needed this book and we didn't have this book, and so people are actually quite grateful. So that is fantastic.
But there is the most one, right? The most one, but there must be some critics, some people that contra to what you wrote.
I think the biggest critique has come from Indo-Belanda people.
Okay.
Indo-Belandas.
What they say?
Well, the critique was mostly based on a documentary. There was a documentary about my book, and in the documentary, it was a 3 hours on television. Did you see the documentary?
Not yet.
And in the documentary, I did not make it. There was 2 Dutch ladies who were following me in Japan and in Nepal and Indonesia. And the documentary is very, very short on the Bersiap.
Okay.
And for them, the Bersiap, it's their trauma.
I see.
And so they were very angry that the documentary skipped over. It was briefly mentioned. But for the Indo-Belanda, you could say, if you go back to the 3 layers of the colonial boat of the Kapal van Reybrouck, they were in the top deck number 1, but always not with the best rooms. On the level with the best rooms, they didn't have the best rooms because they were mixed families. They had Indonesian mothers and Dutch fathers, and so for them there was always they felt second rate. They felt
citizen,
and so they are very, very, not all of them, because I have many good friends who are Indo-Belanda. Part of the Indo-Belandas are very, very touchy. For them, if you are Dutch or Belgian, you cannot understand how bad the Bersiap was. You cannot understand what my father or my family has experienced. So that is the only corner I had some criticism from. And I start with the ship. So the book doesn't start with the attack. I start with this. For me, it's almost like a metaphor. It's like an image. You have this KPM, the ship. It's sailing at night. It's sailing from Surabaya to Jakarta, and it's a beautiful ship. It's a new ship, and all of a sudden, it collapses. And I said it's like a metaphor for the end of colonialism. The Dutch thought that we are here, we are not going to leave. The Governor General de Jonge said, well, we have been here for 300 years. We will stay another 300 years. After that, we can talk. He was like this ship, like Kapal van Reybrouck, like, no problem. We are sailing. And all of a sudden, baff, end of the story.
So it is a metaphor for Dutch colonialism in Indonesia for you.
Yeah, and that's why I start the book with that. And later in the book, the metaphor of the ship comes back, because I could check all the newspapers from then, and I tried to find information on who was on the ship and who was killed. And I was especially looking at the decks. Deck 1. Yeah. It's Dutch people or
Europeans.
Indo-Belanda. Second deck, it's Chinese people, and perhaps people from aristocracy, from Japanese aristocracy. Very few places. And then at the bottom, deck number 3 is the deck with all the, the everyday Indonesian people. And so I was using this metaphor to explain that this is how colonial society works.
Mm-hmm.
This is the only place where you see the hierarchy of colonial society.
Mm-hmm.
And there were some people could change from a deck to another deck. You could go from deck 2 to deck 3 if you had you were drinking too much or your company went bankrupt. And some people could go from deck 3 to deck 2. Like for example, Pratomo, he became a doctor, so he moved up. He became like a, but the ladders between the decks were very narrow. So a lot of people were frustrated about it. And so I used the metaphor of the Van der Werf, of the ship, because it was like on all the ships, all the KPM, KPM, the Koninklijke Paketvaartmaatschappij.
Yeah, Maatschappij of sailing.
All the sailing maatschappij. And on all the boats, you had this 3 decks. And so I use it as a metaphor to explain colonial society and the inequalities of colonial society.